All right. Welcome to this Bible study that's going to be eye opening. Some information that I'm going to give out is something that I had never learned in school back when I did 12 years, and it ultimately should have been the fundamental teachings in the school system, which we have gradually lost over the years to an ungodly rise up of mankind through spiritual warfare. And so stay tuned. You guys are going to just be mind boggled about the information that I dug up, thanks to God and thanks to Yeshua the Messiah, Jesus Christ. By the Holy Spirit to give us truth, right? It's going to be pretty amazing. We're gonna go through what the Holy Bible says about what children should do, and then we're gonna get into the presidents, the first president and a couple presidents, and what they say the school system should have been like, and then you can see how far we have fallen from what America was established on. That's what I'm putting. USA. Okay. And USA is, we're going to talk about what was the fundamentals of about United States of America and how children in public schools today, and how, and why a lot of people actually homeschool their children, and they get a lot of heat for it, but they're actually the wise ones. And but it's difficult, like today it's hard to homeschool your children because most people have two jobs, and we've become into a tradition of everybody's got to work. um, but it's not too late to armor your children. And so yeah, you're gonna find this Bible study just amazing and an eye-opening to understand what the foundation of America was in a biblical sense, and how we were infiltrated. And so I'm going to go through these Bible verses. I am going to post this live feed. So if I get any rude comments in the comment section, just ignore them. We'll bless those who curse us. Exodus 20:12, honor mom and dad. This is a good thing. This brings love to the family. And you'll realize that God's commandments are, respectful and kind. And when you follow them, it makes a really good family. Um, I absolutely love the family I came from, but my family was always missing um, a foundation that, we just continued to fail as a family, and drama led our house. And now um, I'm that generation that um, brought Jesus Christ into our family, and it's a life changer. It's a life changer. I had a lot of repenting to do, and a lot of forgiveness. I had to forgive a lot of Christians that, because I hated Christians growing up because they were pushy, and I understood that there were a lot of different types of Christians. I digress. Honor mom and dad. That's a good thing. Okay. Deuteronomy 4:9. Teach your children to take care of their soul. That's a cool one, right? Teach your children to take care of their soul. How many of us do that? That one really opened my eyes. We always teach them, eat your, try to eat healthy and don't run across the road. But do we ever teach our children to look out for their soul? Um, Not really. I mean, now I do, but most people don't mention that. Deuteronomy 6:6, what God teaches us, we need to teach to our children. Okay, that's a really good one right there. Let me see if I can get just a little bit closer so you guys can see my horrible handwriting and misspelling. Psalms 78, 1 through 8. Do not hide God's words from your children. Um, just found that one today, and I've been studying the Bible for 9 years. Do not hide God's word from your children. If you don't believe in God, I implore you to see if your children do. And just give them the opportunity to see if they, do, because you will be blessed if you do. Proverbs 1:8, sons, follow dad's instructions and follow your mother's teachings. Okay, so children follow mom and dad's instructions and their teachings. Proverbs 13:24, whoever doesn't punish their kids hate them, but whoever punishes their kids loves them. Okay, that one is being attacked in our generation big time. I remember my daughter in Utah. She threw a hissy fit on the ground in a store. I think I was like 18, and I wasn't a Christian, but I was raised in a family where my mom and my dad, spanked us if we acted out. And so I spanked her, not hard, just show her that you can't do that. That's not the way we communicate. And I got the cops called on me for spanking my kid in public. And I was angry. I'm like, what? Because I had never even heard that, it was not allowed to spank children. And so they checked my child for bruises and bumps, and they're like, they tried to give me this talk. I said, no, sir, I will spank my child, and there's nothing you can do about it. I love my child. If I don't correct my child will not understand what's right and wrong. Sometimes words just aren't enough. But if words are enough, then that's awesome, because spanking children is not fun for the parent. It takes the peace away. So let's go to Isaiah 54:13. All your children should be taught by God. Okay, so there's going to be a supernatural teaching by God also, which is amazing. Matthew 19:13. Let the children come to me and do not hinder them. So this is what Jesus Christ says, Yeshua the Messiah. He says, no, let the children come to me and do not hinder them. How many of us do that? How many houses out there are hindering their children from going to Jesus? If your child says, Mom, I want to go to church, and you say, not today, we're commanded not to hinder them. If they want to seek the love of God through Jesus Christ, then we need to support them. How much more will we, take them to soccer or football or sports? We need to up our game on teaching them an afterlife and the morals of God. Acts 2:38, God's promises are for us and our children. Okay, that's what he says, and our children, the promises. So there's a lot of promises of God, even that he will do away with death one day. And so we need to teach the promises to our children. Ephesians 6:1, children ought to obey their parents. Okay, this is Paul speaking there. Colossians, it pleases God for obedient children. So it actually makes God happy when our children are obedient to us. Ecclesiastes, I really like this one. When you are young, remember your Creator. It goes into bigger detail, but it says, when you're young, this world is just so much fun and it's exciting. But remember to to remember your Creator. Remember God. Okay, and so now I want to get, those are the Bible verses about children. It's very self-explanatory that God loves the children. He thinks they're a blessing, and we have a job to do as parents to implement God's love. It's not all about punishment and spankings. It's if you're walking in love, you get no spankings. So now I want to go to George Washington. Like I said, I'm going to post this live feed. I don't post many live feeds, but I want this one to be posted. George Washington was the first U.S. president of the United States. And I'm going to show you how he wanted us to teach our children in the public school. And this amazed me, and they never taught this in school. They never taught about Jesus Christ in school. But it's sad that, 30 years later, I had to research it and see what they didn't want to teach, which was the foundation of America. And so you'll see that the foundation of the president, he wanted to teach children. So this is a letter that George Washington wrote, and most people have never even seen this letter. This letter was from the Indians. Like in America, there were Indians and Americans that came over in the 13 colonies. And so check this out. The Indians started bringing the children to the Americans, saying, "Hey, will you teach our children in your schools?" And or wherever it was. Schools used to be in the churches. Back then, little house on the prairie area. And I'm going to read you what George Washington said. "I am glad you have brought 3 of the children of your principal chief," okay, the Indians. So George Washington is glad he brought 3 children from the Indians to be educated with us, okay? I am sure Congress will open up the arms of love to them and will look upon them as their own children. So there was a lot of love from George Washington a long time ago. And they will have them educated accordingly. Okay, so they had an education system. "This is the great mark of your confidence, of your desire to preserve the friendship between 2 nations to the end of time." Okay, and so he believed it to an end of time. That's a biblical terminology. George Washington was a Christian. "And to become one people with your brethren of the United States." Okay, that is just amazing. My ears hear with pleasure the other matters you mentioned. Congress will be glad to hear them too. You do well to wish to learn our arts and ways of life, and above all, and above all, and above all, the religion of Jesus Christ. That's George Washington. He wants every little children to be educated with the religion of Jesus Christ. And so this public school system, with the first president of the United States, they taught about Jesus Christ in their schools. There was no other religion that dominated America. George Washington specifically said that the children in the schools should be taught about Jesus Christ. That's a pretty good letter. And not only just our children, George Washington was not racist. He was allowing the native Indians to join our school system and to be taught about Jesus Christ. Pretty amazing president. I really love George Washington after reading that about him. And so that's that's George Washington on a level that you probably never heard of, because of the public school system does not like to teach about Jesus Christ. They teach that um, George Washington was the first president and a whole bunch of stuff about him. But George Washington's fundamental um, guidelines was to teach children about Jesus Christ, Yeshua the Messiah. All right? What about Abraham? Abraham was the 16th president of the United States, but you never hear that he was a devoted believer in Jesus Christ. They don't teach it in the public school system. And so, most of Abraham Lincoln's letters involved a biblical terminology, and they literally spoke Bible in all their letters. It's amazing to see that, you know, I know President Donald Trump is trying to make America great again, and I kind of see maybe what he's talking about. I hope what he's talking about, because he's always saying God bless America, and he seems like a biblical terminology man to promote it, which the children need to hear as a leader. We don't need to teach our children about judging the president, but we need to teach our children about praying for the president. But yeah, Abraham Lincoln. I want to tell you a story about Abraham Lincoln that's going to blow your socks off. Okay, so this is a reply to the loyal colored people of Baltimore. Okay, there was slavery in Abraham Lincoln's day. Okay, and he was the actual president that brought them out of slavery. Okay, and guess what happened? What did the colored people? It says colored people in the letter. What did the colored people do? Well, on September 7th, 1864, Lincoln received a gift of a Bible from the loyal colored people of Baltimore during the Civil War. His reply includes his most direct and specific reference to the figure of Christ. In this reply, Lincoln referred to the Bible as the best gift God has given to man. Isn't that amazing? We don't hear about that in school. We just learn that Abraham Lincoln, cut down some trees and never told a lie and is on the penny. But he freed the colored people, and then they gave him a gift. There was a relationship between Abraham Lincoln and the colored people who really loved this man, and they gifted him a Bible. And so even the colored people, which we call black people or descendants from Africa or in that region, that they were Bible believing people even as slaves, which is amazing. That is just so amazing that they should have taught this stuff in school, that they just weren't slaves. They were God-believing, fearing, loving people, and then they had a relationship with Abraham and gifted him a holy Bible. Thanks, James. Your socks were blown off. I mean, come on. I mean, it was pretty cool to see that, you know, Abraham truly wasn't racist, and the black people were very kind, and they studied the Holy Bible. In fact, they were allowed to practice their religion. So that's pretty neat to me. And so this is like the presidential stuff, John Adams, who was the second president, John Adams, he wrote a letter to Thomas Jefferson, and in his letter, he is talking 100% about the Bible, and the fundamentals about Jesus Christ. And this letter is very interesting. John Adams is very unique. He was very adamant about a lot of things about Jesus Christ. And so I'm not going to show you one specific thing. I mean, I really can't show you a specific thing about him, because he always talked about Jesus Christ. In all his letters, he talked about Jesus Christ. I mean, you can see it. I mean, see the name Jesus right there? This is one of his letters. Okay, he talks about Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. He talks about the Gospels, and he's like, you know, um, I did find one thing that was really, really cool. Indeed, Mr. Jefferson, what could be invented to debase the ancient Christianism? Which Greeks, Romans, or Hebrews, or Christian factions, above all Catholics, have not fraudulently imposed upon the public? You know, and that's what I'm saying today. Like, you know, our children go to school and they learn about Greek and mythological, you know, gods, and they took Jesus Christ out. But back in the day, George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, John Adams, all those older presidents, they thought it best our children to learn about Jesus Christ. And now that's been taken away. When did that be taken away? I don't know. So we talked about the Bible verses, about how to raise your children in the Word of God. There's no other religion that will save you from death. But we're going to talk about Christopher Columbus. See his name right here. Christopher Columbus. If you research Christopher Columbus, when he came over in 1492, he only came over for 2 reasons. And if you study it very hard, he carried a Latin Vulgate Bible, which they call now the Columbus Bible. And he actually says in his epistles, his writings, he came over to fulfill prophecy. Fulfill prophecy. So Christopher Columbus sailed the ocean blue in 1942 to fulfill prophecy, to spread the gospel to all nations. We don't learn that in school. You know, we don't learn that in school. And when they spoke to the, you know, to the Native Americans, they had one goal, and to teach them about Yeshua Messiah. Okay? Pretty neat about Christopher Columbus. The Columbus Bible of 1492. That was his goal, is to spread the gospel. He was a missionary. Christopher Columbus was 100% a missionary. Pretty neat. And so this is stuff that I never, you know, learned in school. It used to be in school, and they used to use the church houses as schools a long time ago. But it is, nowadays, they teach atheism in school, that we came from monkeys, and, you know, Jesus Christ is not allowed in school to be taught, you know, in a sense of, you know, not to offend anybody. But ultimately, America was established on the cornerstone of Yeshua the Messiah, the Son of God. And we've fallen away, just like the Holy Bible says that the people will fall away before the great day of the return of the Lord. So let's talk about the money situation. On the money, it says, "In God we trust." On the actual bill, it started in 1955 by President Eisenhower and Charles Bennett. They passed a bill that it should be written on our money. But it actually started in 1864 on a 2 cents. Okay, during the Civil War. It first appeared on a coin. And so I think we've lost our 2 cents about Jesus Christ in these final days. Because if Satan can take away Jesus Christ from our children, It's only left up to the parents to teach their children about the Son of God, which is the only way to God the Father. And so how many parents are teaching in God we trust? You know, how many people are teaching, um, you know, the love of God? You know, ultimately it's the love of God. I apologize that I'm not going to my comments today. I really want this this live feed to go on to be saved, and so I want to kind of keep it to structure. But yeah, children in the public schools, we have fallen away from the fundamental, what was first established by the first president of the United States in a letter, you know, that I first read, and we'll go back to it one more time. George Washington, the first president of the United States, says that our children, they're, in school, that the most important thing is to teach them about Jesus Christ in the school system. That is a letter you can find online. It's an address to the Delaware Nation. It's a letter when we started to, allow the Indians to go to school with the white man. And there was no racism like you would think, according to George Washington's letter. Of course, there's racism out, throughout certain individual people, but the president was not practicing that. He was actually wanting the native Indians to join the school system to learn about Jesus Christ. He had an agenda, and that agenda has been lost. And so now it's the parents' job, because the school has failed. Parents' job, because the school has failed. And I'm going to write that right here. The schools failed. And that's why Mr. Kirk stood up against the school system, is because the school system was not teaching morals of the best type, which is love. They wasn't teaching the fundamentals of what the United States was founded on and what we should learn. What separated us from all other nations is to teach about the Messiah. What separated us from Jerusalem and Israel is because we accepted the cornerstone. But guess what? That cornerstone is slipping from United States of America. Why? Because the devil has entered the school. The devil to enter the school. And if you try to introduce Jesus Christ, just as the older presidents, the foundation of United States of America, the foundation, if you try to enter, stuff about Jesus Christ back into the school, you get shot. You can get shot. I'm not saying that you will, but there are people that will rise up against you because they think they own America with their rights, but they don't. School systems should have always, they first were fundamentally about Jesus Christ and the morals of God. But now that is no more. And I don't know when that was lost. Had to do a lot more studying, but the presidents were on board. They said, the schools should teach about Jesus Christ. But then one day it just, it slipped away. We lost control of what America was supposed to be founded on, and that is the cornerstone of Jesus Christ, the Son of God. So yeah, rewatch this video. I'm going to keep it under 30 minutes. May God bless every one of you, and may you understand that we need to armor our children against what is being brought into the school, what is being taught in the school. The agenda of the devil is in the school system, and they're trying to push, you know, everything bad onto our children by teaching them God doesn't exist in science class, by teaching them false history, by teaching them atheism, and by allowing public speakers to come in to teach them that they might not be a boy, you know, to teach them about sex. You know, that's not their job to teach our children about sex. That's our job, you know. They should never allow our children to be naked in a shower room together. Where's the modesty? You know, where's the hurt? How many children lose their self-esteem when girls tease other girls for not having a certain size of chest, or boys even, you know? You know, it's a it's a bad school system. And so train up your children in the armor of Jesus Christ. Ephesians chapter 6. Put your children in the hands of Yeshua before you send them to school. Shalom. Thank you guys for listening in. If you want to watch the full video, please go back and watch it. Subscribe to the channel to learn about Yeshua the Messiah, Jesus the Christ. Love you guys.